Hello, good evening from Malaysia. So thank you for inviting me to speak at this episode of the Eleventy Meetup. So I'm honored that my first time speaking at a tech event will be dedicated to Eleventy because I love Eleventy and its delightful community. So today I will share about my experience with using Eleventy to build my website, which is a developer portfolio,
Because then it will
and
narrow down like what
including the process of
our
upgrading Eleventy
and
from
all of the
version
comments.
2.0 to version
It's
3.0.
sort of boring, but start with like this research here.
So, to start with the introduction about myself. So I'm Helen Chong, a graphic designer turned web developer based in Malaysia. My pronouns are they, them, or she, her. I had 8 years of experience working as a graphic designer, but I decided to switch career to web development. So I got my first developer job last month as a WordPress developer for a local traditional Chinese medicine company. So I work on WordPress in my day job, but I use Eleventy to build my website. So first, I'll briefly talk about the history of my website before I started to use Eleventy. So the very first version of my website was launched in February 2023. They're coded entirely in HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript. So after I started to take courses to learn front-end web development. So originally, my website was nothing more than just a developer portfolio. But later in August 2023, I started to create a blog for my website. So initially, I tried to build my blog with Jekyll, which was also the first static site generator I came across. But I was not familiar with Ruby. So I switched to this blogging engine named Zonelets so I could write and manage my blog in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. These are languages that I'm already familiar with. However, as I continue to work on my developer website, I started to realize that writing all the code by myself makes a website very tedious to maintain and update, especially if the website also includes a blog. So I started to research for ways to dynamically build a website. And so I learned about more about static site generators eventually, and I discovered Eleventy. So the main thing that made Eleventy stands out to me among other static site generators was its flexibility. Eleventy provides a lot of freedom in how to structure and configure the files and directories of your website, and supports many templating languages, including Markdown, Nunjux, Liquid, and more. And it allows users to mix and match the different template languages to build their own static websites. I like to have control over how I build my own website, which makes Eleventy an attractive option. After reading the official Eleventy documentation and community Eleventy tutorials, I finally succeeded in rebuilding my developer portfolio and blog website in April 2024 with Eleventy version 2.1.0. No, sorry, version 2.0.1. So when I started to use Eleventy, version 3.0 was already in alpha. But I started with the latest stable version of 2.0 first to familiarize myself with Eleventy first. So as I follow Eleventy's development and community and learn about other Eleventy users upgrading to version 3.0, I began to consider hopping on the Eleventy 3.0 train. So as I learn to use Eleventy more and become more satisfied with my decision to build my website with it, so I feel more confident in my ability to trying out an alpha release of Eleventy. So eventually, 3 months after I began to use Eleventy, in July 2024, I upgraded Eleventy to 3.0, starting with the alpha, the 17 release. So in other words, I was officially one of Eleventy's quote courageous canary testers, as the official Eleventy blog put in. So why I decided to upgrade Eleventy to 3.0 before its stable release? So the first thing that made me consider upgrading Eleventy to 3.0 is 3.0 support for ECMA script modules, or ESM in short. So since I began to learn web development more seriously starting from December 2022, I've been using ESM in my JavaScript projects due to ESM being what was taught in the JavaScript courses I took. So as a result, Eleventy 2.0 was actually my first time using the common JS syntax. So I had to learn the syntax differences between a common JS and ESM. So by upgrading to Eleventy 3.0, I could finally go all the way in using ESM in my projects that use JavaScript, including Eleventy. So another major push for me to upgrade to Eleventy 3.0 was its built-in bundle plugin. I have written CSS and JavaScript for specific components and pages on my website, including the header, footer, scroll to top buttoning, the contact page, and so on. I consider using Eleventy's bundle plugin so the CSS and JavaScript code blocks that I wrote in a specific component and page templates will be bundled into a head element. So without bundling the CSS and JavaScript, the style and script text will scatter across all the body elements in the HTML output, which is not a good practice since I think like validators like the W3C Markdown validation surface will output errors when I check the HTML output. So previously, the Eleventy's bundle plugin was a separate plugin that needed to be installed manually, as seen in the Eleventy baseboard starter project, which houses the Eleventy 2.0.1. Though starting with Eleventy version 3 and alpha 10, the bundle plugin is now bundled with Eleventy. So therefore, I finally made the jump by opening my website source folder in terminal and then keying the terminal command to install a canary release of Eleventy in my website folder in the terminal. And voila, Eleventy 3.0 here I come. And side note, I actually use Bun instead of Node.js as a JavaScript runtime for developing and building my Eleventy website. And worse because a Bun is meant to be a drop-in replacement for Node.js. And I like Bun because it's fast and it also has an adorable name and logo. So there were a few steps I needed to make to transition my website from Eleventy 2.0 to 3.0. The first step I had to make immediately after installing Eleventy 3.0 was to edit my package.json scripts for Eleventy, including start and build scripts. So by replacing all the add Eleventy/Eleventy to just Eleventy, since otherwise the terminal will output an error saying a script not found at Eleventy/Eleventy. This happens regardless if I run the Eleventy commands with either Node.js or Bun. Other with problems with package.json script solved, I will finally begin my process to transform my website to an Eleventy 3.0 site by starting with bundling my component and page-specific CSS and JavaScript. So I follow the instructions from the Eleventy bundle plugin's GitHub repository by adding an add bundle CSS and add bundle JS to my Eleventy configuration file. So I wanted to write my bundle JavaScript into files with a get but under file URL shortcode, so I can add a div attribute to a script HTML tag that load the bundle file. For this purpose, I use a to file directory key in my configuration file to write the bundle JavaScript files into the outputs access folder and its JavaScript subfolder. So next I open a base layout. So next I open the base layout template for my entire website and enter the get bundle short code for CSS and get bundle file URL shortcode for JavaScript in the head element. Then I replace the style and script text in my components non-just templates with a CSS and JS shortcodes. So now my component specific CSS and JavaScript are bundled in the output. So now it's finally time to go all the way in using ESM in my projects. I use JavaScript, including Eleventy. by converting all common JS syntax in my Eleventy configuration and data files to ESM. So the first step also add the type module to my package.json file to make my Eleventy project environment support ESM. So fun fact, when you create a package.json file with bun, this type module line will be added by default. This actually tricked me out when I created my Eleventy 2.0 website with bun and made me learn about the differences between common JS and ESM the hard way. So I had to remove the type module line. So it feels good to finally have the type module back to my package.json file now since I upgraded to Eleventy 3.0. And fortunately, the Visual Studio Code and my go-to code editor, I can automatically convert the common JS syntax of the imports in my Eleventy configuration files and the exports of the Eleventy configuration functions to ESM. So VS Code also converts the module.exports object in my global data file by assigning const variables and adding the export declaration. This allows variables to be used in the same file without using a this keyword, because I no longer need to put everything inside one big object, so the data can be exported to be used in variables in my website templates. Now, for example, I have a global data file site meta.js for meta information about my website. With ESM syntax, I can first initiate a variable, the site domain for my website's domain name. And then when I initiate a site URL variable, I can just concatenate the HTTPS a string with a site domain variable. I also created a site author object containing my name and about page URL. And I could use the site author .name key value to include my name in my website's description. While Visual Studio Code can automatically convert common JS to ESM for the most part, it didn't convert the required functions inside the Eleventy configuration function, where I import my custom configuration files for Eleventy, like one for Markdown plugins. So I needed to manually change them by adding the import declaration at the top of the file, then assign them variables. So the process of converting the common JS or ESM my Eleventy website was ended up smoother than I expected. So it might be because my website is actually not that complex, despite having installed some plugins. So my website's transition to in Eleventy 3.0 site is a success, and I could not be happier with my decision to make the upgrade. So if you like Eleventy, I highly recommend giving 3.0 a try. So I'm looking forward to the stable release of Eleventy 3.0. Hello, Eleventy 3.0. So thank you for listening. You can visit my website at helenchong.dev and connect with me on Mastodon. Hope you have a good day.